Hello everybody, today we are doing something a little different on Zwift. I want to test one of the most misunderstood settings in the game, the trainer difficulty. Before making this video, I watched several explanations about this setting. Some of them were actually very good and very educational. But honestly, even when people explained it clearly, I still felt like I didn't really understand the difference in practice. I understood the theory, but I couldn't really feel what it meant. So I decided to test it myself. Instead of just giving an opinion, I want to take a more scientific approach with clear data, controlled conditions, and my own real sensations on the bike. To do that, I climbed Alpe du Zwift twice. Same climb, same bike setup, same frame, same wheels, same target power, and very similar fitness conditions. I used the Specialized Aethos with Princeton Wake Lava wheels. And for both climbs, my goal was to ride at exactly 200 watts average, which is my Zone 2 power actually. The first climb was done with trainer difficulty set to 0%, and the second one was done with trainer difficulty set to 100%. But before starting the test, here is my rider profile, because the numbers matter. I'm 42 years old, 1 meter 83, 70 kilos with an FTP of 276 watts. That gives me around 3.94 watts per kilo. On Zwift, I usually race in category B, but for this video, the goal is not to race. The goal is to understand how the trainer difficulty changed the feeling of a climb. For the test protocol, I wanted to keep things as simple as controlled as possible. I climbed Alpe du Zwift twice on 2 different days, but with similar fitness conditions. The first one was done with trainer difficulty set to 0%. The second one was done with trainer difficulty set to 100%. The goal was the same both times, out around 200 watts average for the full climb. I tracked the total time, average power, cadence, air rate, shift in frequency, muscular fatigue, and of course the overall ride feeling. The key question is simple. If the power is the same, does the climb feel the same? If you enjoy this kind of Zwift test with real data and honest ride feeling, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if this video helps you to understand trainer difficulty a bit better, leave me a small like please. It really helps me now that you want more content like this. Now back to the climb. At the beginning, the difference is already noticeable. The power target is exactly the same, but the feeling is not. At 0%, the effort looks and feels very smooth. At 100%, the resistance reacts much more to the gradient, and I really have to pay more attention to cadence and gearing. On the steeper section, the difference is huge. At 0%, I can keep almost the same rhythm without really thinking about the gradient. At 100%, the climb becomes much more physical. I feel more torque in the legs, more muscular tensions, and I need to manage the bike much more actively. This heart rate comparison shows the difference really clearly. On the left, with trainer difficulty at 0%, the heart rate stays very stable. The power is steady, the resistance feels flat, and my body reacts somewhat like I'm doing a controlled Zone 2 effort on flat terrain. On the right, with trainer difficulty at 100%, the power target is still almost the same, but the heart rate is more reactive. It moves more, climbs higher, and follows the change in the gradient much more clearly. That's the big difference for me. At 0%, the effort is easier to control, but it feels disconnected from the road. At 100%, the effort is less smooth, but much more realistic. When the road goes up on the screen, my legs actually feel it. And that makes the climb more engaging, even if it's slightly more demanding. The results are really interesting, because on paper the two climbs are almost identical. Same climb, same target power, same total time, 1 hour and 6 minutes. Both rides were done at 200 watts average. But when we look deeper, the experience was completely different. At 0% trainer difficulty, my cadence was higher, around 75 RPM. My heart rate stayed lower, and the whole climb felt very smooth and stable. It was easy to hold 200 watts, I barely had to shift, and I almost felt like riding on the flat. At 100%, the cadence dropped to around 70 RPM, my heart rate was higher, and I had to shift much more often. The climb felt heavier, more muscular, more realistic, and much more connected to what I was seeing on the screen. So no, trainer difficulty did not change the watts needed to climb, but it completely changed the way those watts felt. After doing the same climb twice, with the same bike setup, the same target power and almost the same total time, here's my final feeling. Trainer difficulty does not change the watts you need to climb on Zwift. At 0% or at 100%, if you are at 200 watts, you are still riding at 200 watts. The path does not change. But the way those watts feel is completely different. At 0%, the climb felt much smoother, much easier to control, and almost like riding on a flat terrain. It was perfect for holding a stable Zone 2 effort. My cadence was steady, my heart rate was very stable, and I barely had to shift. But mentally, it was also much more boring. I could see Alpe du Zwift on the screen, but my legs didn't really feel the climb. At 100%, everything felt more realistic. The gradient changes were much more noticeable. I had to shift more often, my cadence was lower, and the effort felt more muscular. My heart rate was also higher and more reactive. Even so, the average power was the same. For me, that was the biggest difference. At 0%, the effort is easier to control. At 100%, the climb feels much more connected to the road. So if your goal is to do a very steady workout and hold the power as smoothly as possible, 0% can make sense. But if you want to climb to feel more realistic, if you want to prepare for outdoor riding, or if you simply want Zwift to feel more alive, then 100% is much more interesting. Before this test, I usually rode with trainer difficulty around 50%, which is the default setting. But honestly, after this experiment, I think I might move closer to the 100% more often, especially for the climbs. That doesn't mean everyone should do the same. The best setting depends on your goal. But now, at least, I feel like I really understand the difference. Same climb, same watts, same time, but definitely not the same feeling. Let me know in the comments what trainer difficulty you use on Zwift. 0%, 50%, 100% or something in between. I'd also really like to know what you think about this video. Was this kind of test useful for you? And are there any other Zwift settings, cycling experiments or training topics you would like me to test in the future video? And if you enjoy this kind of Zwift experiment with real data, honest ride feeling and cycling tests you can actually use, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me a lot and it tells me you want more videos like this. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.